Hello, my name is Tina. I'm here today interviewing the Photographer of the Year from Lancaster Photographic Society, our very own Ruth Lochrie. So Ruth, where did it all begin?
A long time ago. Yeah, maybe around about when I was 6 or 7. Yeah, I was going on my very first kids outing from school. We were going to Chester Zoo, and I wanted to record the day. And my dad used to work at Studio Wayne, which was a photographic studio in Lancaster many moons ago, and I wanted to borrow his camera, and he said yes. So yeah, my very first use of a camera, taking pictures of animals in a zoo.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're going back almost 60 years.
So, and how long have you been taking photographs for?
Round about that.
Round about
Yeah,
that.
I'd say at least 55 years. Yeah, not seriously, not at first. So it was quite a while that I started to think about taking them serious.
So when did you start taking your photography seriously?
Oh, that was a long time after, a long time. We actually joined a reenactment group, which we've been members of now for 32 years.
Wow.
And again, wanting to record our outings as we went up and down the country and even to Bavaria.
Oh, wow.
And
fantastic.
Yeah,
So in a reenactment group, you could actually be there on set in the midst of it all, taking all these fabulous photographs of all the action and gunshots and...
Exactly.
Yes, that's a great way of getting lots of experience out in the field.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing though, when it was the time of film, and I really wasn't very experienced at it. So just before that, it was a time when we first got married. I was 19 years old when we got married, which was a thing that we did in those days, and. Just before that, I bought myself with my first wage Polaroid camera. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic.
And have you still got that camera today?
I've not.
Oh.
I've not. No. I've still got a box camera, which was very similar. It's not the one that my dad had, but it's very similar. And I bought it from a vintage fair. And I just bought it for nostalgic reasons, really. So, yeah, absolutely brilliant. I think it still works as well, although I've not tried it. I've got one image of the Polaroid that survived, although it's seriously deteriorated now.
So for over these years, during this duration, obviously as time goes by, you start getting more serious about your photography. And then in 2013, you decided to start attending workshops. Could you explain a little bit about that?
2011, first of all, was our daughter was getting married. And we chose this photographer from Preston. And he did her wedding photos. And... it was just as Facebook was coming in, and so I started following him on Facebook, and he started to do workshops, and I kept looking, and I'm thinking, I really like that idea. And they were wacky, that's me.
More fun, more fun. Let your creativity go wild.
Exactly.
So when you say wacky, how wacky do you mean?
Shooting a gun.
Wow.
And capturing the moment. He was shooting strawberry.
That must have been great fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and messy, I imagine. Was it messy?
Very messy. And I thought, this is me. This is me.
Have you any photographs of this wild strawberry that you shot?
Yeah, I've actually got one. Real? I only printed it out actually 2 years ago.
Wow.
So this is it.
So this is the wild strawberry.
This is the wild strawberry that's being shot.
How many takes did that? Did it happen on the first?
No, there was several takes. So basically, what happened was that the cameras were on tripods, and it was a slow shutter speed. Everything in darkness, and it was taken with a flash.
Right.
And then so we set it on round about a 2 second exposure. As soon as he shot the gun, it set the flash going. So it was noise that set the flash going, and it was that captured the strawberry.
Fantastic.
So that was the best image I took, and it's perfectly in focus on the strawberry, and
it's absolutely fabulous. And I believe that image you actually sold.
I did. I sold an image to a guy that was looking on my Facebook page from Sydney in Australia, and I'm thinking, wow. So I believe it's on an album cover.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
So quite chuffed with that.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. So after the strawberry, you in 2013, you decided then to join the Lancaster Photographic Society.
It wasn't for a while. Yeah, it was another couple of years really. And I was still going. I was going to workshops. I was going with my brother-in-law and a friend, an old school friend actually from many moons ago. And I kept posting my pictures on Facebook. And
so
I was thinking,
how did you find out about the society?
Because I'd seen it. I can't remember how I'd seen it advertised somewhere, but I looked into it, and it was, I think I maybe Googled it. And at that moment, I think it was up at Grief School, in the basement rooms of Grief School or Methodist Church, or it was up there somewhere. But I was really quite nervous about going on my own. So I persuaded my friend, it took him maybe another year. So, and I persuaded my friend and my brother-in-law to come with me and let's join together. So by this point, the season had already started.
Yeah.
And they'd moved, and they were actually in Priory Hall.
Right.
At that point. So I went along, made very welcome, just loved it.
After joining the society, did you find it of great help? Were you learning a lot from being a member of the society?
Most definitely. Yeah. There was the workshops that I was attending with the guy in Preston. They were mostly they were the wacky things, but also there was a lot of model shooting as well, and using lights, and that was such an eye opener. Couldn't believe it that you could get such different images from moving lights around, and then actually using manual settings on your camera. So that was quite something that. So, but when I joined the society, we've had club nights with tabletops, and different members had different specialities. So we were then picking up on how to use macro. And,
so you're learning lots of different skills
from different members.
From different members.
Yeah.
And so obviously you've now been a member of the Lancaster Photographic Society for 5 years.
Almost 5 years now.
5 years, yeah. So obviously the first 2 years you were homing in your skills.
We have several competitions, as you know, throughout the year. And I entered quite a few. I printed out loads of my pictures and entered the competitions. Absolutely slated.
Really?
Yeah. Oh dear. But yeah.
Did you
I
find...
I don't want that to put people off though, because it's that critique that actually improves your photography as well.
So you took that as a positive
I did.
critique, and you learnt from that.
And I learnt from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving forward from those first 2 years of being a member and having entered the competitions, and then 2 years on, obviously then you started turning a corner and started winning major competitions, leading on to becoming the Photographer of the Year. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, for a couple of them beforehand, because we have several themed ones throughout the year, it came to the second to the last one, which was the annual DPI.
Yeah.
And we had to enter mono and colour. And I'd been on a workshop photographing ballet dancers, and I'd taken some high key photographs.
What's high key for anybody who's watching this who doesn't know what high key is?
Basically it looks as though it's overexposed, so it's really quite bright. There's some of it is sort of like well exposed. When I'd done the ballerina shots, quite a few of them were like that, because it was in a white room. It was natural light that I was using, no other lights. The ballerina was next to a window, so just getting lots of natural light in it as well.
Yeah, nice soft light.
So there was no background interest as such, just the ballerina. And what I'd done was converted this high key photograph into mono. I never thought for a minute that it would be any good at all. And lo and behold, I got the best mono DPI of that year.
Fantastic.
And I was so proud of myself.
To bits.
Chuffed.
Yeah,
So
all that
chuffed.
hard work paying off.
Exactly.
2 years down the road after being a member. Have you got that photograph
I have.
here? Let's
and
have
this
a look.
This is actually, this was on my wall. This is, and
thank you for taking it off your wall for us.
So this is it.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah.
So that is basically, that sits in my hallway for everyone to see.
It's a great achievement, Ruth.
Yeah, one that I'm so proud of.
Yes. Yeah. And then from then onwards,
I don't know what the theme was, but how we used to do the competitions then, we used to enter so many colour images and so many mono images, and then the judge on the night would choose his best image of either colour or mono. And lo and behold, I got highly commended on the best colour image.
Wow.
And this was from another workshop that I'd done. It was called Goths with Owls, I think it was called. I'm not sure whether, did you go to that workshop?
Yes, and this is one of my favourite photographs, and it's still, every time I see it, I just think, wow, it has an impact on me. Yeah.
And this is it.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful.
So I edited that, and it was all set in studio, of course, and he'd just put twigs behind on the backdrop. But this owl, this model had such an affinity with that bird, didn't she?
Yeah,
it was just, I couldn't. Yeah.
And it's not, you'd think it was her bird. That's just.
It was just so friendly. But and the way I've edited it, I just couldn't believe it, how the eyes were, the colours of the eyes, and it just
so much impact.
It jumps at me.
Yeah, it jumps at me as soon as I see that photograph.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
I love it. That's another proud moment.
So going back, Ruth, I believe that you went to night school as well.
I did, yeah. Sort of just after we'd got married, started having children, of course. My husband then said to me, he just suggested, why don't I go to night school for photography? And and learn actually how to use a camera. And that was the time of film, so we had an SLR camera, which I've got somewhere upstairs, hidden away, an Olympus, and it was fantastic. So I actually learned how to use different settings, buy a film each week, take pictures at night school, get them developed, and then have the tutor critique them. So, and then just to complement it, I was always interested in painting and drawing when I was a child, and I loved horses, absolutely loved horses, and I then went to night school as well, doing painting, watercolours mostly. So I then realised as well that photography is the art form, and painting and drawing, they've got the same principles of composing.
Composition.
Yeah. So on the rule of thirds and everything, and just thought, how great is this? How great is this?
Yeah,
so
the two sort of
and the two crossover. Unfortunately, just after that, life took over really, and the camera got put down and not used. I actually started up a business along with Bob, for doing historical costumes. So and I used to make costumes for the reenactors.
Gosh,
so
a woman of many talents. Wow.
It's just another art form.
Yeah.
Another art form. And yeah, another proud moment was, there was quite a few of those costumes. I used to do historical reenactment markets. We used to travel the country, and I sold quite a few of the costumes and to guides from castles and historic houses and things like that. So another proud achievement.
And you're still part of that reenactment scene.
I'm still part of it, but I take photographs instead of making the costumes.
What's your favourite? Do you have a favourite type of photography? Genre or wildlife?
Wildlife. I've got to say that. I've got to say wildlife. Although I can't pin anything down because I can't decide. But wildlife has got to be up there, and possibly the second one is dancers. And I love photographing dancers. I was on a workshop 2 weeks ago, photographing dancers. Just amazing.
So you're always still challenging yourself.
I'm still challenging myself.
Learning.
Yeah.
So that's great. You're so motivated, and it's great to speak to somebody with that enthusiasm. That's just constantly pushing themselves and trying new things all the time in photography.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely wonderful. Regarding the animals, have you any photographs? Because I do know that you did go overseas and you photographed the, was it the Camargue?
The horses of the Camargue.
Camargue.
Yeah. Well, horses, even from a young age, my parents had a small holding. My dad always liked horses, and he used to take me and sit me on horses, and always wanted one.
So you're comfortable around them?
Yeah, very comfortable. And he would never buy me one, probably because it was so expensive. And and my cousin had a horse, and I was so jealous. I really tried to convince my dad that we needed a horse in the back garden, but no, it didn't happen.
No.
So even from when I started at school drawing, and I used to copy Leonardo da Vinci's sketches of horses, and that was something I loved doing. And the biggest regret was that during my rebellious teen years, I threw it all away.
Oh.
And yeah, very sad. But my love of horses has carried on.
It's carried on.
And from that, another thing about that we love to do is travel. So my husband, it was his turn for choosing holidays last year, and he wanted to go to the south of France. So, yeah, my mind started doing overtime, and I'm thinking, how do I fit in a shoot workshop with the horses of the Camargue with a holiday? But I did it. And that has been one of my ambitions in my whole life, was to see the horses, the wild horses of the Camargue. And that came to fruition.
And you didn't just see them, did you? You photographed them
I
as
photographed
well.
them.
Yeah.
I worked everything of this holiday around this workshop. And luckily, although not for my bank balance, the workshop...
We won't tell Bob.
No. Luckily, there was no one else on the workshop but me. And I actually had a one-to-one with this guy. He was called Serge. Brilliant. And he used to be a fashion photographer in London and retired back to the south of France. So he picked me up one evening in Aigues-Mortes and drove me to the salt marshes. And we met the guardians of the horses, and so there was a gentleman, and I think it was his two daughters, and they rounded up some of these horses. There was about 9 or 10 altogether. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And we started, first of all, he chose the settings and told me what would be best for the light, etc. Because it was evening time by this point. And I was trigger happy.
Trigger happy, wow.
I took 1,000 photographs.
Fantastic. And was it quite a narrow window to get those photographs, taken?
We had about 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours to get the shot.
Yeah. And it was incredible. I had to hire waders, and that was something else. We walked into the marshes with the waders on, and just the panic went out of the window about dropping the camera in the water. And the horses were just led into the marshes, and they started galloping towards me. And no fear at all. No fear. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. And I got the most amazing photographs. I was so chuffed.
So they weren't telling you to get out of the way or anything?
No, they swerved round us.
The photograph, I believe, this photograph that you took of the horses, the Camargue, has now been in a national magazine as well.
It has. Round about Christmas time, I think, or maybe January. I follow this Facebook page, photography page, and they put on a call out for women photographers. They were actually doing a set piece on women photographers for this magazine, and they were asking for people to submit their favourite image for this magazine, and they would choose 12. So I submitted one of the horses, and then couldn't believe it. Maybe about 6 weeks later, I just got a message, and I was one of the 12, and out of almost 1,000 submissions.
Wow.
And yeah, there it was in the magazine, and I'll just show you it now. So it was the digital photographer.
Absolutely fabulous. Yeah.
So that's that. This was in the March publication. And
that's
there it
this
is.
year, is it?
That's this year. So there it is.
Oh.
And it's called Running for Home. And one thing that I am most proud about on this page is the lady that took this image is actually called Jane Lyons, and she's one of the LNCPU judges, and she's highly revered, and I'm on the same page as her.
You're on the same page. So Ruth, after showing me that wonderful photograph in the magazine, have you any prints of the horses, of the
certainly
Camargue.
have, because
Can we
that's
see?
another one that I've got in my hallway.
Wow.
And there it is.
Beautiful.
That's it in the flesh.
And to imagine that at one point you were in front of those horses and they were full galloping towards you. I mean,
yeah, I was actually knelt down in the marsh taking that photograph. So
did you actually feel the spray coming from the horses?
A little bit.
Yeah.
So once they'd gone past, so up the camera came in case it got wet. So yeah, that's that one. And I've got another. This is another one of it. This was the one. This is a mono version, but this was the one that was the best colour. Should have been print, but it's actually DPI this year because of the COVID situation. And the judge pointed out that this middle horse is actually its eyes looking at me.
Yes.
Yeah, which is quite. Yeah.
So, with all these achievements, and he's just so ambitious and always striving on to trying something new. I don't know where you find all the energy. Where do you see yourself going next?
I would love to take photographs of the Milky Way. That's my next ambition.
Yes. So, Ruth, what advice would you say to anybody who's thinking about taking up photography?
Come along and join us. And it doesn't matter what sort of camera you've got. Come along and join us. You'll be most welcome. We're a very friendly society, and yeah. So there's so many members that'll help develop your skills as well. And don't be afraid to move that auto button onto manual settings.
I think that's a really good point that you've just mentioned. Don't be afraid to join, regardless of what camera you have.
Yeah.
Because it's not really about the camera, is it?
No, it isn't. No, it's what you see. It's what you see and you want to capture.
So even if somebody has a mobile phone, they can still gain such a lot of knowledge.
Definitely,
from joining the
We've had some entries in competitions that have been taken with mobile phones, and you can get some good cameras and phones nowadays.
That's great encouragement for those who are thinking of joining. Dip the toe in first.
Definitely, yeah. Come along and meet us.
Yeah. Would you say that joining the Photographic Society has really improved your photography?
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's with picking up the critique from the judges more than anything, because you think the pictures that you've taken from the workshops, even from using different lighting, and I was taught from that to try and get as near perfect in camera as you can with little editing. But then it's how you see that you want to take that photograph as well. But you've got to then think, how would a judge think about that composition that you've chosen? And it's that's helped.
And also, I imagine not being afraid of breaking the rules as well.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's what you see. What you see. Yeah.
I mean, I've been a member myself of the Photographic Society alongside, and obviously I've learnt an awful lot from the other members, the judges, and people like yourself. What one person sees, is taking the same photograph, it will look totally different.
Completely. Yeah. And another friend of ours as well, and Mandy, she can be on the same workshop and be completely out of the box.
Yeah.
And take something completely different. And it's fantastic. It's so inspiring. Yeah. So inspiring.
Yeah. Well, Ruth, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure interviewing you, and it's been a real insight, your journey, your photography journey, and all I can say is thank you for sharing it.